Hey everybody, it's Joe Trippi and welcome back to That Trippi Show. This week, Alex and I are in Chicago for the Democratic Convention. Many of you know we record this on Thursday, so this episode was recorded prior to Kamala Harris's acceptance speech, but we're not too worried about that. We know where this is going. You know, the vibes have been incredible, obviously. We'll drop an update later in the week if any more news breaks, but let's get into it. Also, thank you to everyone I've seen this week. Alex and I it's just been great to have people come up and tell us they've been listening and how much it's helped them think through what's going on and how supportive you've all been. It's been a really remarkable time, and it's great to get that feedback because sometimes it seems like you're talking into the wind and you're wondering whether you're reaching and helping people. So thank you for that. Thank you for listening to the show and spreading the word. Alex, where should we get started?
Well, Joe, I think we should hit the vibe so far. I realize we're looking at it, and I think a lot of our listeners are probably looking at it through what I would charitably describe as blue-tinted glasses, I think. But it's really hard to escape that the overall feeling here is just people are happy. And it just seems like a happy place to be. And if you compare that to what went down at the RNC, it's really obvious that there's a very clear distinction in what's going on right now.
Well, no, I mean, we've talked all, through cycle about the contrast, and this just makes the contrast even more distinct. I mean, even more, clear that it's not just democracy. It's not just, not just democracy. Of course, it's democracy, but I mean, it's also mood. It's also moving forward and thinking, with some energy and actually not looking into just constant doom and gloom that the right keeps preaching and that frankly the media keeps pushing. But anyway, know most of you have been watching, so don't want to do a full recap here. But yeah, it's been a very joyous. Maybe that word's a little over used, but it's true.
You're going to hear it a lot in this episode, my friends.
Yes, and it's been just the energy. Look, folks, I've been to I think every convention since 1980. Floor manager in the 1980 convention, floor manager in the 84, was there through all of them. Then I started, being up in the booth with, whether it was NBC or CBS Evening News with Katie Couric or Yes Fox with Karl Rove through both, I think, the Obama conventions. But in any case, and then CNN have been there. But this one, I think it's even more unified and more energy than the 2008 convention. And the reason was, people remember, look, we were in the euphoric Obama was about to get the nomination thing. But remember, that had been the knockdown, drag out fight between Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. That floor was pretty split. He had the delegates, he had more of them, and he clearly won the nomination. But it took took the entire the floor. There was a lot of unhappiness on that floor. Not every Hillary Clinton supporter on the floor was unhappy, but they were getting there. But it took the entire convention to come out of there on a rocket, and this one started on day one. So that just sort of historically, I think this is as far as I could remember, I wasn't in any of the ones before that, so showing my age, but no, I think this is absolutely the most energetic, the most happy, the most looking forward with a lot of confidence, but also a lot of, we've got to do the work. But it is really an incredible convention. One of I think probably the best we've ever had.
I agree with you in terms of the vibes. So I know you've been around it all week. I was there Monday night. And even for Joe Biden's speech, he was constantly interrupted with, "We love Joe, we love Joe."
Yeah.
It really was a powerful moment. The handoff was great. His daughter introducing him. And then, afterwards, Kamala came out and people were just happy.
Can you even imagine? Talk about the contrast, but can you imagine Donald Trump standing up at the podium and saying, "It's been the honor of my lifetime to serve as your president. I love the job, but I love my country more." I mean, no way, not going to happen. And that every time the crowd was cheering and chanting, "Thank you, Joe," he kept saying, "Thank you, Kamala." It just shows you again, from the very early moment, that first night, which was really about Joe Biden and giving him his due, that he and the convention was already turning to, as he passed the torch to Kamala, and was already like unified and ready to go, which we saw later on when Barack Obama started to speak with "Are you fired up? I'm fired up." That was great. I mean, I used to lead that chant back in 2008.
Looking at night by night, and again, I don't want to go too far into it, but one of the things going into the convention, I think Michael Tomasky pointed this out, and just in terms of goals, and clearly the joy, the happy, the unity that's there. But he said, if the convention is dedicated to telling Americans over and over again that the Democratic Party is on their side against the billionaires and the corporations picking their pockets, then it will be a huge success. I think they've done a pretty good job of that so far. I mean, you've seen the data that I've seen that is basically going to be the message that wins this thing if we can get it out right. You think that's been good so far?
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, they're making that case of whose side you're on. We're on your side, side of working people. You're seeing this also reflected in the ads that the Harris campaign is running right now through the convention. I mean, as viewers are tuning in to watch it on TV and talking about how her plan to lower costs for the middle class, and that Donald Trump has no plan for the middle class except for tax cuts for billionaires. So it's all that message that you're seeing on the floor is being reflected in millions of dollars of TV advertising that's going on at the same time. And I'm sure on digital as well. So it's clearly that message is breaking through. But, I know you were there Monday, live on the floor. Hillary and AOC were solid. Alex, the Republican and Mormon mayor of Mesa, John Giles, spoke, and his, "I feel at home here," and urging the political middles to come vote for Kamala was powerful.
I was honestly worried at one point, like they had AOC, they had Hillary Clinton. And that was like in the back of my head, I was like, where is this going to go? But I actually thought both of them delivered pretty good speeches. I mean, AOC is so good with the crowd, and I think Hillary had the right tone. So my fears were unfounded there, but it was really about Joe Biden.
Yeah, no, and he was great, as we just talked a few minutes ago. But Tuesday you got Pritzker, the Obamas, and once again you detect the theme here. Pritzker, I think, his actual billionaire line was what everyone is talking about from his speech. But also, I think "we strive to be kind, not cruel" was exactly the contrast that you're seeing. That bright, optimistic look at, "we're fighting for you, we're going to help build a better future," versus the absolute cruel crap that particularly JD Vance has put an exclamation mark on for Trump. And then you had Michelle Obama. Something wonderful, magical is in the air, isn't it? It's the contagious power of hope.
Which a throwback there.
Yeah, exactly. So no, things were, and then poor Barack Obama had to follow her. He did a good job.
So again, there were all these one-liners, and I think you mentioned that are getting all the buzz. But I think so far the moment of the convention, for me at least, and I'm actually cracking up a little bit saying it, but when Michelle introduced Barack, and I mean the entire arena lost it for a couple minutes, but like they were hugging, they were happy. It was kind of this moment where it did take you back to 2008 in a way, but not so much about the Obamas, but about like there is happiness in some of this thankless work we do all the time, and it was just like there is a way to be happy about this, and that was the moment that I think stuck with me.
Yeah, no, look, we've been, since he came down the escalator, it's been everybody at each other's throats, and it doesn't have to be that way. You can, there is a thing called hope. There is reason. We do live in the greatest country on the planet, and Yeah. Is it flawed? Do we have to make it better? Yes. But it's not a third world shithole like, like Trump and JD Vance and the MAGA electeds mostly, keep sort of preaching to the cult. But let's get on with, and you had the surprise of Oprah appearance, and there were, let us choose. She urged people to let us choose truth, let us choose honor, and let us choose joy. You're going to keep hearing that. But
yep, we got that. She got a cat lady joke in there,
yeah,
but
she got a
again,
good
the
one.
joy thing, and then obviously Bill Clinton said the same thing. I mean, there is a very coordinated effort, but I think it's real.
Yeah. And then, look, last night, I mean, again, we're recording this on Thursday. So, Wednesday night when Tim Walz's speech, I think the moment there obviously is clear why he was chosen, the happy warrior. But I think the thing that, you just don't have a heart if you didn't respond to his son crying and calling out to the crowd. That's my dad.
That's my
dad.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, again, getting back to Coach Walz and, Father Hunter, all the things that I think are just so obvious. I mean, the talking about the 400, growing up, his town of 400 people where you couldn't, you might not agree with the politics of your neighbor, but they were your neighbor and you looked out for them. And I think that again is somebody who can just speak to those small towns across them. Everybody in those towns knows exactly what he's talking about. And and then, from his speech, when Republicans use the word freedom, they mean that the government should be free to invade your doctor's office, corporations free to pollute your air and water, and banks free to take advantage of customers. He said, but when Democrats talk about freedom, we mean freedom to make our own healthcare decisions, your kids' freedom to go to school without worrying about being shot. And again, he's talking from that small town, rural Republican area that he represented as a congressman for so long. I think he again, it's an important thing. We've got to reach out and give people permission structure to leave the Trump party and for at least this one election swing over and vote for us. And I think he's a real clear bridge for a lot of those people.
I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but we do have to mention how the Trump team has been responding to all this. And it's just not good. Like, if I think obviously we have a pretty clear slant on the show, but you do try to tell it like it is. If he was doing something that was working, you would say he's doing what's working. But he's just been like mean and angry the whole time, and that's not working.
Yeah, crowd size. But then, Kamala fills two stadiums at the same time. One Milwaukee and the one in Chicago when she gets the nomination. When the vote goes down. And he can't help himself. His response to Shapiro was he's a highly overrated Jewish governor. You've gotta throw that anti-Semitic stuff in there. His political director is trying to start a rumor that Kamala has a drinking problem. They're clearly, just nothing but anger and hate and just off balance. I mean, that's the clear thing. And we've talked about this. That's because he controlled, ever since he came down that damn escalator, he controlled the media discussion. It didn't matter if you loved him or hated him. He was the center of the popular conversation that was happening, whether it was around a water cooler. And that's, if people were still talking to each other and not yelling at each other. But anyway, they have lost their balance because he's not the focus anymore. It's Kamala Harris and Walz. And particularly during this week, as the momentum continues to build, I think they're grasping at straws. You have JD Vance, I don't even know sometimes what this guy's talking about. Do you have any food that's really bad? Let's give it to the reporters on my plane. I mean, who talks like this? Although I guess from the guy who, belittling calling out cat ladies and stuff.
It's just weird.
Sense. Yeah.
It's just weird. Like,
no, okay, but don't call us weird. We're not weird. Okay. We'll try to come up with a better word for it because this is really weird. But anyway,
So here's my question, and this is what I want to know from you and what our listeners want to know, because this is what people were coming up to us and asking. Does this week change the race at all?
oh, sure. I really believe that that one, as you and I've talked about this relentlessly, unfortunately. I mean, about sort of our view of sort of the structure of the race. This has always been kind of, Trump stuck at 46 and 53% of the country saying, no way, we're going to vote for him. And the real question was, with Biden, all the problems that people had with him, fair or not, it was like a 46 race. And then those 8 points of people who basically were going to decide the thing, but made up, that 53. A lot of them were in that 53 group that had decided, even though they didn't like Biden, that they weren't going to vote for Trump. So were they going to stay home? Were they going to vote for one of the third parties? Were they going to grudgingly walk in and vote for Biden? But it was always that the structure of the race has always been that there is 46% of the American electorate that is not available, for the most part, to Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, anybody other than Trump. And then there's 54% of the American electorate that is not available to Donald Trump. They do not, will not go back. They do not want him to be their president. And the problem was a lot of those people were conflicted about Biden and him. And so as soon as Biden passed that torch, what you saw almost immediately was the race start to move to that 46-53 that I think is going to happen. And what it's going to be interesting because that's clearly what happened. A number of younger people, for sure. She's gone up from 70, from Biden being at 70 with blacks. She's up to 82 already. I'm sure it'll go to 90. It will all start to grow now, and I think this convention is helping that grow. So if you look at just groups like young people, blacks who were at 70 for Biden, already at 82, I think, in the last poll I saw for Kamala. I think that's going to continue to go up through this convention. But I also think that, and this is the really, we didn't talk about Duncan and Kinzinger, Republicans on the, giving speeches. You look at the floor of this convention and look at the speeches, and it's the most, everybody talks about how diversified the Democratic Party is. I mean, it's the most, it's just an incredibly diverse party. Well, it now includes Republicans like Kinzinger and Duncan, who got up there and said, "Look, we don't agree with but we can agree on coming together at this critical moment." So this is what I was going to get to. The interesting thing here is Simon Rosenberg and I've had quietly been arguing during the entire year. Because he believes we can get to 55. And I always had my view that it was a 46-53 kind of race and thought, look, hey, Simon, we can get to, I think we're going to be over 50. If we do all the work, by the way, and we all have to keep doing the work, this isn't going to be easy. They're going to keep coming and keep attacking. But if we do this and we fight hard, I think we can get to 53. Simon, has been pretty clear. He thinks, it's possible to get to 55. I think this convention and Waltz in particular, as part of the reaching out, may open up a couple of points more of people who desert Trump. I mean, more of the moderate Republicans and Republican-leaning independents and with Duncan and with Kinzinger, and I hope that will grow, that more Republicans will join and endorse over the next weeks. That it's I'm starting to see that Simon could that I might lose that bet. And by the way, I'd be really happy to lose it. We don't actually have a bet, but we have been looking at the numbers, and that's sort of where I think this convention has opened that door a little bit. It's not just bringing back the base that wasn't as energized or excited about Biden, particularly the younger age groups, but that she's clearly tapped into. I mean, clearly become that was going to happen. And it did happen the second she the torch was passed. And she said it. He didn't just pass the torch to me; she passed the torch to all of us. And I think that's infectious. You can see it across the floor. You're seeing it across the country with hundreds of thousands. Who are I mean, she just said what $500 million since she's been. It took that was we talked about this on an earlier show. Obama had raised $500 million in his campaign from people who were chipping in. She just did it in like a 4-week period. So that just tells you, this gets back to the 2008 thing, much more solidified, much more energized sooner. Obviously, that was the most energized that I remember the party being, but this one's even bigger. And there were no Republicans sitting there cheering on Barack Obama at his convention that I can remember. So I'm just saying, I think you look at the diversity, you look at a growing. I think we're going to see more Duncans and Kensingers joining this effort, and I think this convention laid that groundwork.
So let's end with this, because you and I both have to go.
Yeah.
The other thing that happened overnight and this morning, we've got it looks now like RFK Jr. is going to drop out of the race probably on Friday. Most realistically, he's going to endorse Trump in Arizona on Friday afternoon. They're both going to be there. That's what the speculation is. It looks like it's just about been confirmed. Joe, does that matter at this point?
No, I don't think so. It's not clear. I mean, it's not clear how many people were left that were going to vote for RFK Jr. I mean, he was down to like 2%. And secondly, it's not clear that the 2% he had is all that transferable to anybody. But I think the more remarkable thing is, look, we know RFK was out there, calling both campaigns and begging for a job in exchange for support. He was trying to reach out to the Kamala campaign. They wouldn't give him you wouldn't give him, wouldn't even return his calls, right? But he's recording a call that he had with Trump. And now, as Trump's watching this convention going on and realizing it's all slipping away, you got to wonder. I mean, it's illegal, by the way, to exchange an endorsement for a promise of a job in a future administration. I mean, you can endorse somebody, but it's clear they've had that conversation. I mean, shoot, RFK Jr. taped it. So yeah, there's another perfect call, folks, that you can count on coming up. But no, I don't really think so. I think, look, the big question has been and may continue to be Michigan. I know we're up by 4 points there, but the big fear going into the convention was, with the protests, et cetera, with this issue, the way it plays in Michigan, would Kamala Harris come out, some damage because of the protests or something? You don't see any of that. I haven't. It's still a concern. She's listening. I think they've handled it pretty well, given how tense that issue is. And so I'm really anxious to see what some of the early polling after the convention is in Michigan. But it still has to be a much closer race in those states for anything like this, like a RFK, to have any real impact, even if both his 2 points 100% moved over. A lot of them probably won't vote. But my point here is that I think Michigan is still the place to watch, not just because of whatever impact RFK Jr. doing this might have, but Cornel West could have an impact there if the race closes there. But right now, I don't see it closing. In fact, I think any concerns about that, while it still need to be monitored, I expect that we're going to see a bump coming out of this convention across the board, not just in the blue wall states, but in all of the battleground states.
So, and we'll get into those battleground states and where we see in the coming weeks. But like I said, shorter show today. You and I both have some other media obligations this morning. So as you're listening to this, hope you enjoyed this week as much as we did. But Joe, that's just all the time we've got.
Thanks, Alex. And thanks again, everyone. I mean, I really appreciated everybody who I met and Alex has met here who've come up and told us how much they enjoyed the Trippi Show, and how much it helped them understand and give them, some optimism throughout the year. And I think we always gave you the truth, but we still will temper it. If I think there's something wrong, Alex and I will make sure we bring it to you. But thanks for listening to that Trippi Show. This podcast will always be free with support from our advertisers. It's part of Resolute Square, so check out the latest at resolutesquare.com/Trippi. Please subscribe to that Trippi Show. Leave a review on Apple or wherever you listen. And if you're listening to this episode on YouTube, please like and subscribe to get alerts when we post the next episode. You can always send us a question to thattrippishow@gmail.com or leave us a question or review on iTunes. Next week, we'll do a rundown of each of the battleground states. Hopefully, we'll have some polling by then, but we really look forward to talking to you next week. Thank you. Take care.
Resolute Square.